Matt Eads joins me here. Thanks for hanging with me through the break there, Matt.
Of course, my pleasure.
You have a book that is getting ready, if I'm not mistaken. Is it like release April 9th or somewhere around that neck of the woods?
That's right. April 9th is the official release date, and it's available for pre-sale now, and super excited about it.
Grillseeker basic training for everyday grilling. I see what you did there. I think that's very cute.
Yeah.
Let's talk about book writing here for a minute, Matt. I have had many of the most prolific authors and writers in the live fire industry on this show multiple times. And I've often said, if we were having this discussion, 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, we could be talking to Matt Eads, the guy who signed a fairly large advance, maybe a really large advance. Maybe you already had your eyes on another book because you could make a living at writing a book. Well, fast forward to where we're at in 2019 now, and certainly there's still a lot of books. The live fire industry portion of the book writing is still incredibly popular. You see the new books come out each and every spring. Certainly your book is going to be out this year as well. But from a business standpoint, Matt, how much do you feel this industry has changed, and is book writing a way to keep Matt Eads' name in a new venue out to people, or is it an additional way to make some pretty decent money?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been asked that specifically about the money. People think you're writing a book, no, you're going to be rich, and I just chuckle because you're certainly not going to be rich with writing a book.
Yeah.
To your point, the times have changed, and there's so many fingers in the piggy bank relative to book writing. So this is not at all about making a dollar. If I make any money on the book, I'd be happy. I don't think that certainly is not my motivation for doing the book. Really, for me, it's about getting the word out, to so many people who own a grill and bring it out on Memorial Day and 4th of July, and the rest of the year it spends collecting dust and leaves. And so the concept of this book and how it came to be with the publisher was that I wanted to show people that grilling is something you can do every day, and kind of spread the word of, United by Flame is what I use for a hashtag. And what I mean by that is, especially in today, like in the political environment, in the 24-hour news channel, there's just, people are angry. And I just feel like when you get around the grill, you get around the flame, and you've got some meat or some vegetables or whatever that's on there, it doesn't matter your political preference. It doesn't matter your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, your socioeconomic upbringing. Like, none of that matters anymore. People get around the grill, and all of those things go away, and all you think about is how great this food's going to be. We're standing around this live fire, this very primitive way of cooking, and people are together, and people are just united that way. And that shouldn't be reserved for just Memorial Day or just the 4th of July. Like, you can do that every night. You can invite your neighbors over, you can have your family out, and you can just cook around a fire, and like, all is good in the world, at least in my mind. So that's really the message that I kind of wanted to spread, with recipes, that you can do in about an hour. Some of them take a little bit longer than an hour, but they're all very simple recipes that are aimed at great flavor and, ease of cooking, so that anyone that's just starting grilling on any grill can make them. And so that really was the angle of the book, for me to sort of spread that word out. And, if something more comes out, if there's another book opportunity or, opportunities with this book, I'm certainly would love to take advantage of it. But I feel really good about, the product that I put out. There's a ton of work. Writing a cookbook is infinitely more work than I ever thought it would be when I decided to do it. But I'm just super happy with it, and I'm excited for people to get it in their hands and to give honest feedback about it.
Matt, were you approached by a publisher, or did you go soliciting?
Yeah, so I got a random call. I think it was an email actually I got from a publisher that said, "Hey, we've checked out your website and love your recipes," and they were interested in the following on Instagram and sort of the engagement and that sort of thing. So they were kind of interested a little bit, or I think mildly. And they said, we're looking to do a grilling cookbook for next year. This was last year. We're looking to do this grilling cookbook for next year. have you ever thought about writing one? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I've thought about writing one. But to be honest with you, the extent that I thought about it was, fleeting. Like, yeah, it'd be kind of cool to write a book someday, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
But when they reached out, it was like, yeah, I certainly have thought about it. I think it'd be great. And they said, they were talking to a handful of people. They didn't say who they were talking to, but they were talking to a handful of folks, other food bloggers that had recipe content that they could kind of screen to be sure that folks knew how to write a recipe or develop some flavor profiles, that sort of thing. They said, so think about what you want to write about, kind of pitch on what the book would be. So I went through a couple like phone screens and they looked at some writing samples on my website. And, I pitched them on the concept of everyday grilling so that, grilling and cooking outside around live fire wasn't a special event. It was something that people could do every night. And it had to be special every night. Special didn't have to be reserved for long weekends, holidays. And so that was my pitch. And I'd never pitched a book before. I really didn't know what I was doing and probably made kind of a fool of myself when I talked to them about it. They were pretty close to the vest. And making a fool of myself, by the way, is not something I'm accustomed to making a fool of myself. So it was nothing new for me. But, so they kind of went radio silent for a few weeks. And I thought, they probably have chosen somebody else, but, maybe next time, whatever. And I just went on about my thing, doing my thing. And then they reached out again and said, hey, we've selected you if you're interested in doing the book. Let's talk about the details and how that would pan out. And, of course, I was, kind of doing the happy dance and try to play my poker face to them. And then we worked out the negotiation of how the contract would work and who was going to be responsible for what. And I went to work on the book, and it was, again, infinitely more work than I ever anticipated.
Did you think it was going to be just as easy as sitting down in front of some kind of word processor or computer and just banging out a bunch of recipes, turning it in, and maybe 3 months work and you'd be all set?
I was thinking that along that line, but maybe a month and a half work. So 3 months would have been kind of a stretch. Like I thought I could knock this out like a month and a half, And I guess if you're like Stephen King and somebody says, "Hey, we want you to write a new horror book," like you probably go lock yourself in a cabin somewhere for 6 weeks or whatever, and all you concentrate on is your book, and you've done a million of them, so it's probably fairly easy. I didn't have the luxury of locking myself away for 6 weeks or for any period of time. Like life has to go on around here. So it was kind of like wedging it in with a shoehorn in my schedule of when I could do recipe development. And I thought like, maybe it's going to be, kind of like doing it for the website, but it just wasn't. Pictures have got to be better. And I was lucky to have some, I did a lot of the pictures myself. I had some help with some other really incredibly talented photographers that helped me out with some of the photographs. But you put together this schedule, like this planner, and you say, okay, on Tuesday I'm going to do whatever recipe that I've been developing, and you spend all day Tuesday developing that recipe, and at the end of the night you taste it and you're like, this tastes awful, this is horrible, there's no way it's going to make it in the book. So there's $100 worth of ingredients an entire day gone, and so your schedule's backed up. And of course lighting is key for getting the right photos. So you got a recipe planned for a Tuesday and it rains and it's overcast all day. You've got no light. You've got to try to kind of deal with that issue. And so there's a number of things that I just didn't think about going into the book that I would certainly think about the next one. And I would say that after I finished the book, I probably thought I'd never do this again, not ever. And now that it's done, I'm like, I could probably do another one of these. That was actually kind of fun.
Matt Eads joining me here on the show. We're talking about the new book, Grillseeker, Basic Training for Everyday Grilling, now available for pre-sale on Amazon. I'll actually put the link to that book in the post show notes as well. So in case you're wondering where you can get that, or just go on Amazon and, search Grillseeker. I'm sure it'll come up. Matt, what's your favorite recipe in the book?
Ooh, I would say my favorite recipe, probably the polenta. Polenta is one of I do a sweet and spicy polenta that seems to be a crowd pleaser, and it's probably one of my favorites.
Is that the disc polenta, like the packed polenta, if you will?
So you can use that stuff, in a pinch. I prefer to use the actual grain and go old school with it. But yeah, you can use the packed polenta if you're in a real pinch. I don't recommend it myself, but and the recipe is written to use the actual grain. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that seems to be a crowd pleaser. People really like that one.
Matt, let's talk a little bit about foods and recipes. One of your fans, Al Dente Diva, wanted me to ask you about your take on quality of meat and how important it is. In other words, what to look for, what to avoid, and where do you get your meat from and why?
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with what to avoid. I would say
Brown meat.
avoid the. Yeah. Wait a minute. Now I understand that horse meat is something that you know something about. Is that true? Somebody told me that. Not too long ago.
I would say that I'm the singular voice of trying to get it back on the legal thing here in America, but I know it does have quite a dark color to it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about what to avoid first. I would say that I would avoid labels that talk about this is prime, this is choice, this is select. Understanding that that sort of grading system is I don't know, it's kind of ambiguous, and one inspector might grade something prime that another one might not grade prime, and one might grade something choice that is better than choice. So don't get fooled. I would say what to look out for. Don't get fooled by those labels and assume that because something says prime that it should bring more money. I would say what definitely to look out for is marbling. Because oftentimes you'll find marbling on, a choice cut that looks better than what's on a prime cut. So, marbling obviously is very important for flavor and tenderness. So be conscious of that. That would be what I would say to look out for. I'd also say to try to be friendly with your butcher, like your local butcher. Those guys can, if you have a local butcher, certainly befriend them and have them give you some tips if you can. Next, I look for thickness. Depending on the thickness of the cut, that's how I'm going to cook the meat. If it's, more than 1.5 inches thick or so, I know I'm going to do a reverse sear. Less than that, I'm probably going hot and fast. And then, of course, I'm cost conscious, right? I mean, would I love to have Wagyu beef every night? Of course, but I don't have that deep of pockets, so I'm conscious of costs.
Matt, are you a fan of dry aging?
I'm to an extent, I guess that's a tricky one. So to an extent, 21, 28-day dry aging, I think brings kind of a different flavor that I'm down with. Beyond that, like I've had some like super dry age stuff, 90-day stuff, and that is, in plenty of people love it. Don't get me wrong, but for my taste, 90 days, like that hyper dry age stuff is just a bit funky, bit nutty for me. So I would pass on that.
So would it be a total pass on that Adam Perry Lang 365-day dry age stuff that he was breaking out before he got arrested for swatting or whatever?
Yeah, man, I think good on him, and that's some perseverance, that's some patience, but that's not for me. I think I'm rolling with a can of Spam before I go for something like that. That's just not my forte.
Well, one of the things that it's been around forever, but, pat of butter on a steak as it's coming off the grill. I use some grilling oil. One of the things I saw on your website was herb butter. What's the recipe for that?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's one I've been making for a while. It's some chives, some garlic, a little bit of lemon zest, some olive oil, salt, pepper. Bring the butter up to room temperature, mix those things and with it, a little bit of parsley too. Form it into a log and throw it back in the refrigerator, and it's just it seems to be well received by everybody that's had it. You can get any sort of grade of meat, throw that on there, and it's going to taste like $1 million.
So just as it comes off, drop a knob on there, let it melt and do its thing.
That's exactly right. As the steak is resting, and everybody or most people probably know it. If you don't, you should probably let your meat rest for depending on the size of the meat for a period of time after it comes off the grill. And so while it's resting, I put a big blob of butter on there. Put a tent over it and just let that butter kind of ooze into the meat while the meat is resting. And for me, there's not really much better.
One of the other things that I saw on your website, aside from that herb butter, was the rosemary salt. And I think, everybody is back into the specialty salts and all this other stuff, but this is something that appears to be easy to make and brings a new flavor to the table.
Oh, it's so easy to make, and it's awesome. I don't know if you love lamb or not, but I'm a huge lamb fan, and so it's incredible on lamb. And so the story behind that really is I was buying the stuff. You can buy it pre-made, right? There's a number of people that make the pre-made rosemary salt or smoked salts or whatever.
Sure.
And it's sort of cleverly packaged, right? So you think, oh, this isn't so bad. It's like 10 or 11 bucks, and I was using it all the time, and when you add it up, you're like, geez, this is like $35 a pound for salt.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can certainly do this, right? So it took a handful of tries to sort it out, but it's really so simple. It's flake salt, some lemon zest, and rosemary, and some various runs through the coffee grinder or spice grinder, whatever you have, and you can make this stuff for like $3 a pound as opposed to buying it. So I have been doing a ton of rosemary and some smoked salts. There's recipes for smoked salts in the book, but you can have a lot of fun with salt. I mean, it just takes smoke really, really well, and paired with the rosemary, it's just incredible on any number of things. My favorite is lamb. Spoiler alert: I'm doing a show, in Napa Valley. It's called Yountville Live, and I'm doing a cooking presentation there. I'm doing some lamb and polenta, as a matter of fact. And so I'll be doing some rosemary crusted lamb there in Yountville in March, I guess it is, at the Yountville Live Wine and Food Festival.
Matt, you want to do a lightning round before I let you go?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. True or false? Searing seals in the juices.
False.
Yes or no? I still have the first barbecue pit I ever owned.
No.
Let it rest or let's eat?
Let it rest.
Radio or podcast?
Podcast.
Bourbon or gin?
Bourbon.
Old-fashioned or Sazerac?
Old-fashioned, no question.
Oh, beef brisket or pork ribs?
I'm going beef ribs.
Guy Fieri or Bobby Flay?
Bobby Flay.
Better question. Ina Garten or Ree Drummond?
Ree Drummond.
Open pit or Sweet Baby Ray's?
Sweet Baby Ray's.
Yes! Finally! Oh my God, you know how long it's been since somebody decided to say Sweet Baby? It's been open pit, I think, ever since I've asked that for now like 3 months. So, Matt Eads.
Really? That's interesting.
You are winning. You're winning, Matt. Thank God for you. I knew you were my best.
I actually I had the opportunity to spend about 45 minutes sitting at a picnic table with Dave Raymond, who is actually Sweet Baby Ray.
Yeah.
And he's since sold the company, but what a terrific guy he is with a terrific story. And the sauce is, I've used that sauce for a long, long time, and I've been a big fan. But if anyone gets the opportunity to have 5 minutes with Dave Raymond, it's definitely worth your time. He's a super nice guy.
Matt Eads is the Grillseeker. You can find him at grillseeker.com, on Instagram at Grillseeker, and of course, go to Amazon and check out his new book, which is available for pre-sale. That is called Grillseeker Basic Training for Everyday Grilling, releasing April 9th. Matt, really appreciate the time here tonight. Thanks so much for doing it.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I hope I get to do it again.
You got it. There he is. Matt Eads, the Grillseeker. I just like saying Grillseeker a lot.